I'm Blue Allen. I'd like to talk to you about just developing your horsemanship and becoming a better horseman. I can remember people years and years ago telling me things, and I wasn't ready yet as a horseman to understand or even wrap my mind around what it was they were talking about. But luckily, horsemanship is one of those things that you never quit working at, and you never quit striving to get better at, and you never quit learning. I think the greatest horsemen in my book are guys that always continually learn, no matter what age they are, no matter how much they've achieved, no matter how much they've accomplished. They're always working on themselves and working to make themselves better so that they can be better horse trainers or better horsemen in general. But I can remember people telling me years ago things that were so far over my head that I didn't understand one thing that they were talking about, but they'd say, someday you'll understand it. And I thought, yeah, whatever. But there's times still, even, as far as a month ago, that I'd be working and all of a sudden I'd be like, that's what that guy was talking about. I finally felt that. That's what he was, I finally got what he was talking about. But all of our basics are the same, no matter what discipline you're in, no matter what you're doing. And I think it's important for all of us to remember, no matter whether you're a beginner or you've been doing it for a long time, that you have a basic program. And Don Murphy one time told me, don't ever be afraid to add to your program, but don't completely quit everything that you're doing. Don't watch someone else and say, well, I should change everything that I'm doing to fit that program because it won't work. Stick with what you do and stick with what you know, but always be willing to add something new to it. And you can learn something from everyone, even if it's something of not how to do it. If you watch someone and you're like, boy, I don't think that'll work for me. There's nothing wrong with watching and accepting it, but doesn't mean that you have to go home and do it. And that's part of being a good horseman. But there might be that one horse someday, somewhere down the road, that you can say, I watched somebody a long time ago that showed me this deal, and I think it'd work on this horse. And I think that as part of being a horseman is not putting them all into the same mold and lumping them all into the same mold. They're all individuals just like us, and they all learn in different fashions. And it's our job as horsemen to figure out how to convey our message, and that happens through lots of different methods. There's no black and white to training a horse. You've got to be willing to think outside of the box and figure out how to get your message across to them in the best fashion, way, shape, or form that you can. But anytime you start to lump them into the same category, it's not going to be very long before you don't have very many horses to ride, because they're not all going to be the same and they're not all going to function the same. And it doesn't mean that horse is any better than the next one, but it's our job to figure out how to get them trained to the best of their ability. And sometimes I always feel like it's the hardest thing about training a horse is making a horse that maybe doesn't have a lot of talent be great at what he is. Not exceeding his boundaries and your expectations of him, but make him great at being mediocre, which sounds really easy, but I think that's the hardest thing in the world to do, because as humans we expect so much out of them, or we had a great horse that we expected this one to be just like, and maybe he can't do it. So just making them be great at being mediocre, I think, is the hardest thing about training a horse. The great ones will always rise to the top, but it's the ones that are a little not as talented, don't have the work ethic that some of the others do. They're trying to figure out ways to make them function and work the very best for you. So never quit learning, and never give up on your goal of becoming a better horseman.